Okay, so in this episode, I speak to Jeremy Brim, who runs a business called Growth Ignition. And Jeremy grew up through a number of the key large consultancies at the time, EC Harris, Mace, and he was an expert at securing them work. And this is a really good episode, I think, applicable to large consultancy leaders, but also, and probably more importantly, SME consultancy leaders. Jeremy kind of cuts through a lot of the rubbish that you're all doing. And he's really pragmatic and gives advice about how you actually secure more work and keep on building a business rather than spending a lot of time chasing your tail, not winning the right work, having a very low bid success rate. Jeremy offers some really, really practical advice, and I'm sure I'm going to do more episodes with Jeremy because I think he can give a lot of value to what you guys need to do to get better with more kind of work that you enjoy and your people enjoy working on, and that you keep on growing and critically make profit. Well, welcome to the next episode of Growing Consultancies. Today, I am really pleased to have Jeremy Brim on from Growth Ignition. Jeremy, welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Great to be here. Thank you.
No, absolutely. And I think people are going to get a lot of value from this one. Obviously, generally speaking, we interview consultancy leaders. You are indeed a consultancy leader, but more so, I think what we're going to try and get out of this one, hopefully, is just helping predominantly SMEs, but even larger consultancies, just get better at what they need to do around kind of business development, bid work, etc., which you're obviously an expert in.
Yes, well, we'll give it a go. Let's see how it goes.
So we normally start by the same process with this about how did you get into the industry, first of all, and let's just maybe talk through your career right up until today.
Yeah, no worries. So I was really lucky straight out of university to get a job at Mouchel, the outsourcing business, back in the day, 25 years ago. And I was lucky to land up working with a group of people who were really very, very good and were really successful. So we were into bidding for public sector TUPE transfer deals.
Okay.
But the connection with construction was that the people we were bringing into our organisation from those clients or from previous incumbents were architects, engineers, quantity surveyors, largely from local government. So we won a load of contracts with Cambridgeshire County Council, Oxfordshire, Bedfordshire, etc. really, and won everything that we bid for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
But I guess there's a combination of skills or exposure that I had in that period that I still rely on to this day. And it's quite a rare combination. So I obviously needed to learn about construction because that's what the people we'd be bringing in were going to go and execute on. But we also needed to obviously understand how to write great bids, compliant, compelling public sector bids. And frankly, if you can win deals in UK public sector where there's TUPE transfer or if there's or if there's security implications, you can win deals in any market in the world, frankly, because ours is one of the most constrained markets. So that was a great education. But the two sort of builds that were much higher value in many ways were we were conducting capture, as we would call it now, which is kind of an American philosophy of how you position for and shape deals with clients, ideally to negotiate or direct award those deals. But worst case, you've shaped the procurement with them, so you've got a much higher probability of winning, or in fact, you're probably going to win. So we didn't really call it that back then. And we had some natural talent rather than perhaps hard processes around it. But I was really lucky to work with a group of people who were kind of big natural talents at that and have gone on to be really successful. So that was a great grounding. And then the fourth bit that's really rare in construction was that because we were bidding for outsourcing deals, we were going to play those teams of 100 or 200 people back to those clients. We needed to understand high performing teams, performance environments, operating model. And so that series of skills or exposure in how you run fundamentally successful businesses has really served me well, because I've been able to leverage those skills in helping people understand what the operating model should look like for the growth of their business as well as operationally. So that the combination of those things has really served me well.
Amazing.
And so
how long were you at Mouchel for in total?
So that was 6 or 7 years.
All right.
I had a guy who I refer to as my work dad, Graham Keane, who's now on the board of Bureau Happold, lives on a super yacht in Hong Kong Harbour that's parked next to his other super yacht. So he's done all right. And so Graham got headhunted by this lot called E.C. Harris, who I'd never heard of when I was at Rochelle, the world's preeminent project managers, quantity surveyors, along with T&T and perhaps a couple of others. If you wanted to be a quantity surveyor 25 years ago, you would have wanted to work for one of those super brands. And then Graham brought a number of us across, 6 or 7 of us over the next couple of years. And so I followed him across to E.C. Harris. And initially, I got a real job, actually. I ran a 4 million turnover business, a schools quantity surveying, building surveying business, their schools direct business. So I had a series of staff across Liverpool, Manchester and the Midlands who were delivering bog jobs and fencing and all sorts of smaller works for schools across the country. And so I did a transformation of that business, a bit of a turnaround, because I wanted to learn. Everything I'd done to that point was about winning work and particularly quality submission wise, not commercially. So having that job for a couple of years, running being a commission manager or like a little mini MD for a fairly decent business, taught me a lot about commerciality, debt and whip and all of that kind of stuff. And so that was a great grounding. But classically, I got the phone call from Graham a couple of years later. Would I go and work in the global strategic pursuits team? I think they'd hired someone and it hadn't worked out. So I ended up sort of jointly running their capture and bidding team for all the biggest stuff in the world. So we won Qatar World Cup Stadia, the cost management of that. The integrator for all of Microsoft's estate. They have their own traffic system in Seattle, for starters. Pretty big scheme, as well as lots of public sector stuff, CCS frameworks, technical advisor stuff with DFE. So we had a great little hardcore team of wonderful bidding and capture people in that business. And I ended up taking part in shaping their strategic key account management program, which was all, I didn't realize at the time, but it was all on the runway to the sale to Arcadis, who many people would interface with or compete with now in your client base or audience for this. So ultimately, I inadvertently helped sell the business to Arcadis by helping the leaders of the business in cutting the tail, focusing on the key clients and winning some of those big deals that ultimately helped them with their pipeline and write the IM to sell the business. So that was a great education. I helped with the integration into Arcadis. To be honest, it was like a bit of a weird reverse takeover, because as it panned out over the years since, actually the E.C. Harris leaders ended up running Arcadis all the way to Alan Brooks, who's just transitioned off as CEO. He was an E.C. Harris leader back in the day. And so I stuck around for a year for the integration and learnt a lot about how to integrate businesses and things. But it was quite clear that they wanted me to go and work in places in the world at the time that I didn't really fancy, was about to get married and all of that kind of stuff. And so I ended up leaving. I had a couple of years out, and this was construction recession sort of time, 2008 into 9. And so I left. I had a couple of years out merging together 2 big transaction debt recovery contact center businesses as a project for 6 months, leveraging what I'd just learnt from merging E.C. Harris with Arcadis. And that got me noticed by the owner of one of their smaller, more interesting competitors. So I joined the board of that business for 2 years as the BD director and helped scale and successfully sell that business. So we trebled the value of the business in 2 years by winning some big deals, sorting out the pipeline reporting and helping with the IM quite successfully. And then my last real job was at Mace, leading the proposals work winning function for the construct business. So my first job for a builder rather than professional services or outsourcing. And had a really fantastic time. This was in the Tottenham Stadium Battersea Power Station era. I'm sure it's a coincidence but the business grew. We doubled the revenue of Mace during that period between consult and construct from $1 billion to $2 billion, I think. My friend Mike Reeder was leading he had a similar job in consult, and we both had a really great time working in a fantastically entrepreneurial business with great people and capability. But my dad pulled me to one side in the March 2018, after I'd been at Mace about 3.5 years, I think, and less than politely explained that I was killing myself, making other people rich again.
Right.
Because at EC Harris, I was on the partnership program, and they sold the business before I made partner.
Right.
At Mace, perhaps it had been hinted there might have been some equity available, and then very quickly realised that that wasn't perhaps the case. And so, and my dad had bought a business, done a management buyout with a PE firm, and sold very successfully. He's quite a successful dude, and so I think he likes my wife more than he likes me, and prefer that she stuck around, which I've been successful in somehow, despite my behaviours. So as she'd attest. So he challenged me to start my own business, build some equity or something, or at least do much more of what I enjoy doing and what I'm good at, but with a more balanced lifestyle to a point, or as good as you can have when you have your own business, as you'd know. So, and we've done that really successfully. So we're Growth Ignition. My business started in the October 18, so we're 7+ years old. And we've had a great time, largely working. We're best known for working with many of the big contractors because of my Mace brand from that era, but we also work with outsourcers, legal firms, IT firms, as well as consultancies, more your usual home territory. So our marketing is geared really to winning big transformation training, capability development programs with big contractors. But as we were talking over breakfast, but sort of stop before we started recording, I get a lot of sort of unintended inbound leads from lots of consulting businesses too, that I love to help out, because we've got a lot of, we've both got lots of friends in this game, haven't we? We have some. My wife has got a marketing agency too. She started her business the year before I started mine. And we just have some hard and fast rules these days that we just work with people that we like, that we want to help be successful.
Brilliant.
As long as people have got good integrity, and they treat us as a partner and recognise the value in what we do, which is fairly extreme. If people let us have a run at it, then we'll all have a good time. And so we've been pretty successful in that. We've had good relationships, and delivered some great stuff and had a good time doing it.
There's a lot to be said for that, isn't there? Because you tend to find the most difficult clients, who you probably don't enjoy working with, they're also the ones who use up most of your time. And actually, if you work with generally good businesses who respect what you're doing, they're respectful and appreciate what you do, and you enjoy working for them. And it's mental how many businesses work with companies that don't enjoy working for.
Well, it's one of the big pieces of work we've done. Beautiful segue, thank you. It's one of the pieces of work that we've been doing in the last couple of years. I'm on my 25th client in 25 months now. All construction sector, half consultancies, half contractors, but from 50 people consultancies to 5,000 people global consultancies, and from SME builders all the way up to some of the biggest brand tier ones in the country. And every single one of them are making 80% of their profit with 20% of their clients. No one, only one of them, because we've had an update this week on one, only one of them has been more than 3 percentage points out of that, and they were worse, more exposed, not
That's
less
fascinating.
exposed.
It's interesting.
One of them's your clients. So we've then in the last 9-10 months done a lot more work on the DNA of the ones that are the clients that are delivering most of the profit. And notice I say profit, not revenue, because I don't really care about top line. I'm much more interested in what I call good profit, which is where you have a Venn diagram of profitability, but with your people happy and staying with the business, which for a recruitment business, sorry mate, but that's retention's important.
Absolutely, 100% is. Trust me, I agree with that. I'd rather have my clients have high or reasonable retention.
And go and find them new rock stars, right? So profitability, happy staff, good staff satisfaction and staff retention rates and well-being, and then happy clients. If you can figure out the clients that are in the middle of that Venn diagram, and so in effect create the DNA of your perfect client avatar, do some market research on where the money's going to be with who in your chosen markets, and wash that data through that lens, i.e. find more clients that are similar to that central DNA, you'll smash your numbers to bits. Whereas what most consultancies end up doing, of any size, I mean, we tend to find, the government. I had a chat with the Defence Secretary at DPRTE this week. I do a lot of work with Department for Business and Trade. Do some stuff for Export Academy, Business Academy, and do stuff at Cranfield.
Right.
And we find it's not just SMEs actually. So they're transfixed with SMEs, the SME agenda, trying to get SMEs into more work. And that's great. But actually the problem's much bigger than that. We find it's any firm below 1,000 people in the UK tend to be pretty immature in their approach to growth. And they're exactly as you said, working with mates, or fishing in the wrong ponds with the wrong sorts of people too often. And so they actually have a great big tail. So it was one of the things we did on the run up to the sale of EC Harris. Actually, we focused on the top 31 global clients that would be the future growth and particularly margin of the business, and built plans around them. But critically, we understood who was in the tail, where we were working with one-hit wonders or very small impact clients that, as you say, take up a lot of your time and effort. If you actually account, most businesses don't account for their cost of sale and account management effectively.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of it ends up being attributed to sort of heartbeats and well-being. It's people's evenings and weekends, but that's distraction. It's your fatigue. So those clients are actually quite dangerous for your business, because not only are you making a loss, but what we've found is that the clients where you're making most of your profit, they're the ones that are good to work with. Your people like their people. They've got repeatable programs of work off into the future, or a long range mega project. There's higher propensity of direct award and negotiation. So you may well be winning work with them through a framework, but it's more likely to be direct award, or at least you're very likely to win any mini bid tenders with them. Whereas down in the tail, what you tend to find is those are the one-hit wonder clients where you've won the tender on price. If you're a builder, perhaps on program, it's outside your sweet spot.
Right. Yeah.
So it's more likely that it's outside your natural geography, comfort zone in terms of service or project type. So, and your people don't necessarily like their people, and it's further from home, we tend to find.
Yeah.
So what we tend to find is that you get what you wish for. So if you hobby bid loads of stuff, so we share some clients, and we've got friends as well in businesses where the business is 5 years old.
Yeah.
They approach me for bid writing training, which is down the bottom of the funnel in the end game.
Yeah.
Because they're losing bids, and they think it's because they don't know how to write great, compelling, compliant bids. And I train about 500 people a year in that stuff. And I have to explain to all of them that your ability to write a good, compliant, compelling bid is only 20% of the problem. The real problem is that you're writing bids for strangers.
Right. Yeah.
Because what happens is people start a consulting business, PMQS firm or whatever. They work with their mates for 3 years and scale from 1 or 3 or 5 of them as partners to 20 or 30 people.
Yeah.
And then in year 3, they think, oh, well, we've run out of mates to work with.
Yeah.
So we'll get a subscription to one of those public sector portals, and they just bid everything that comes through it. And they win some, but it's this bottom of tail stuff.
Yeah.
Working with strangers, etc. But they're on this bidding sort of running machine of constantly bidding, and not winning so much. Their win rate's probably sub 20%. I've got 1,000 people consultancy where their win rate was 16%.
Wow.
Spending more than a couple of million quid a year on bidding stuff, hobby bidding stuff all over the country. Just imagine the impact on profit for the partners by bidding half as much and winning twice as much.
Yeah.
Or ideally focusing on clients and key account management, rather than bids down here.
And is that just because those bids, well, A, they don't know the client well enough, the client doesn't know them, but they're not putting the effort in. It's just like churning it out. It's a little bit like in in my game, there are certain recruiters out there who just will pick up a CV off a job board, often really, really poorly, not even speak to the candidate and just fire it out. And just like, let's try and throw as much shit at the walls as we can, and some of it will stick, and that's how we make our money.
Yeah.
Is it very much that? Do you think that they're just like immature with the way they write the bids, the level of knowledge with the client, etc.?
Yeah, it is, and it's dangerous. So not only are you burning shed loads of cost of sale that you're probably not measuring, so you don't realise, in money and time, but also heartache. So if you're winning stuff, 1 in 4 or 5 bids that you're bidding down here with strangers, your people will have a less pleasant time and are much more likely to leave.
Yeah.
Whereas if you work with more clients that fit your sweet spots, your people will be more likely to stay, more likely to see development opportunity in that. Because they also, if you win a random project with a stranger, your people can't see a future in it. It's just they can only see that job. Whereas if they can see a key account with programs of work, they can see some growth. They can see how they can grow in that. So there's lots of unintended consequences in hobby bidding stuff down here that have big impact. And it's one of the things that I talked to the department, I was talking to the defence minister about in just that vertical, that we, in the B2B, B2G world, so where you're selling to other businesses or government, are wildly underserved in development.
Right.
But we're 40% of UK business. So it always annoys me. You see, DBT or other departments, they have a soiree at number 10 or number 11. And there's always one of them off of Dragon's Den, the one that owns the chain of gyms or whatever. All of the big dogs they've got there are all B2C.
Yeah.
And if you look at the previous government's Help to Grow programme, that the curriculum for that was all B2C.
Yeah.
And we're not selling cans of Coke or iPhones.
No.
We're selling, and we don't. I had a thing with some academics the other day. They used the word customers.
Right.
Our friends in consulting and construction businesses have no customers, because a customer's one person.
Yeah. Okay.
One decision maker that makes a decision.
Yep.
We have clients.
Yeah.
So I get it in some of the biggest firms in the country in construction. If I have senior people using the word customer, I know we've got a problem and I need to help them fix it. Because they've had an academic or a consulting firm or a marketing agency getting them to think B2C vibes.
I find this all the time. Like the amount of over the years, I've been running a business since 2001. The amount of no disrespect necessarily to them, but someone like Action Coach or many other organisations, they've got these self-proclaimed business coaches, and they come in and it's like, so what have you done? It's like, I helped Coca-Cola in Europe grow by blah blah blah. It's like, all right, brilliant. What about consultancy? What have you done with a consultancy? What have you done within a B2B market? It's like, yeah, no, nothing. But I've done this. It's like, yeah, well, that's not going to help me.
The other one's Southwest Airlines.
Right.
Is the case study that they
Yeah.
Which was a brand and positioning exercise, very B2C, completely different. So fundamentally, your listeners will submit bids at a point in time. Those bids or proposals are read and scored by between 3 and 5 people.
Yeah.
So, but if you're submitting that bid or proposal to 3 to 5 people that you don't know, you're probably not going to win.
Yeah.
So I had an instance with one of the biggest contractors in the UK. I did a program for them last year, big improvement program. And I did a series of sort of drains up reviews of the business with them in their approach to growth, benchmarking exercises, where I helped them understand what bad, average and high performance looks like through their funnel. So in their approach to market research and business planning, marketing, not comms, which we should unpack maybe. But certainly key account management, capture of their key pursuits, bidding, and then client experience. And I was presenting on a board the overview of that series of research that I'd done to them, to the 6 regional MDs and the group chief exec. And I turned around, happened to glance at them, and I realised only one of the MDs had any idea what I was talking about.
Right.
And it's the same in consultancies. Your superstars that get promoted are generally wonderful delivery people. There is not a single course or program, there's not an MBA any of them can do anywhere in the world which will unpack that funnel for a B2B, B2G business.
Right.
You can get bid writing consultancies to teach you about bid writing stuff, and there's some great ones out there. There's some less great ones too. They'll pretend they can teach you capture stuff, but they're actually talking long range bid prep, really, where we want to shape the most valuable solutions for clients. And then we're just asking for a share of that value in return. And ideally, we can negotiate that with them. But particularly, we want to be client centric, figure out who those clients are that meet our sweet spots and really drive at those. But most UK businesses do not have a key account management program. Because they think it means filling in a big 50-page template for their top 50 clients, becomes a cottage industry, gets left in a drawer. Never happens, because my competitors in that space are universities or big management consultancies.
Yep.
When actually I'm a one-page plan man. Who do we need to know? What's important to them? What do they really care about? And particularly, what do they value? How do they feel about us? What are we going to do about it? If you figure that out for your top 3 current clients, your top 3 prospects, you'll smash your numbers to bits. But fundamentally, we want to know who we're going to be submitting bids to in more than a year's time, ideally 18 months' time.
Right.
Who are those 3 to 5 people for our key deals at least? What do they care about? What's important to them for that project, that deal? How are we going to create more value for them that they value? And go on a program, a campaign for a year or more certainly your top 3 to 5 deals, your big frameworks or your big projects, your tent poles. If you can get your head around, so you're getting your people in a room with their people, figuring out stuff, how to build their project more efficiently, effectively, safer, whatever they value. We want to get to a place where when you submit your bid or proposal, it's got your top 3 to 5 CVs in it, and they might be the most beautifully written CVs ever, but nobody ever reads them because they already know and trust your people.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the utopia. But almost no one gets to that place. We're heavily underserved in B2B, B2G generally, let alone in construction. In that approach, in conducting market research, understanding our sweet spots, targeting that audience that will eventually read our bids. Almost nobody does that, but when they do, they are heroically more profitable. Their staff stay longer, their development's better, the business is safer. Everybody has a better time. Fundamentally, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah. So let's maybe talk through this. Obviously, I appreciate we've obviously got the constraints of the length of this episode, and we could probably talk for hours and hours and hours on this. But let's say you had a business, a consulting business, whatever, PM, cost consultancy, whatever the business is, and it's 10 people. If you were to drop in there to support them, Jeremy, what would you say? Right, these are the fundamental things you need to do to go from 10 to 30 people whilst generating a profitable business.
Yeah. So our first step is generally we'd run a maturity benchmarking session like I did with that big builder. And we do that for lots of small consultancies all the time. So we'd benchmark their approach to market research, business planning, marketing, CAM capture, bidding, and client experience. And so they get back out of that a report that shows them what we've talked about, but with a series of recommendations, and it gives them a 12-month transformation plan, which is geared to how much capacity and headspace they can invest to make the change. And as I say, most of our changes are baby steps. You tend to fail if you try to boil the ocean.
Yeah.
So it might be a one-page plan for your top 3 to 5 clients or prospects, a one-page plan for your top 3 pursuits.
Right.
Probably a bit of fettling in marketing and getting them much more account-based marketing based on that addressable audience. So so that will give them, in effect, the plan. And then with or without my help, as much or as little help, or our marketing agency or other people, they might need bid writing support for certain types of bids, strategic frameworks, whatever it might be. I've got a supply chain or friends that I can introduce them to. But the key bit, the thing that really unlocks things, because they've probably been focused bottom of funnel in the end game, as the big firms like Jacobs would call it, in bidding. We want to break out of that. So I'd coach them to bid at least 20% less. So first step is, let's put in a decent, robust bid no bid process, probably using a model called the Scotsman, which is an anagram. I can never remember what it stands for, but I was introduced to the concept by a Scotsman.
Right.
So it's why it always resonates. But you can Google the Scotsman, and it's a scored model. It gets you to test how well you know the client, how well you understand the spec. Is the deal real? What's your real capability to bid the thing and deliver the thing,
Right.
etc. So basically, it scores your ability to win and tells you whether you should have a go or not.
Right.
So that's the, when EY or people do a big review of a business, bigger businesses, that's always in the top 3 to 5 things. If that business has to ultimately bid for work or put in proposals for work, that's one of the top 3 to 5 things they always advocate is stronger qualification, we call it.
Right.
I call it bid investment decisions,
Yeah.
because every bid is an investment of time, heartbeats, money, and a lot more of it than you think. So we'll in middle of funnel, we'll sort out qualification, but the key bit is data and insight as best as we can, particularly if they're public sector facing.
Right.
So it's not a political point, although my best mate's a Labour MP, Mike Reeder, who's doing a wonderful job for us. I didn't support him in getting elected because of the colour of his politics. It's because he's one of us, understands construction, and he's just a genuinely good human. Nice to have one of those in the big house. But it's not a political point at all. Labour don't appear to be very good at politics, actually, but they have done a bunch of really sensible stuff, and they're not really told anyone about it.
Right.
There's some great building blocks for me, for you, and all of your audience. So we have, as a country, an industrial strategy. It says we've got 4 verticals. It's stuff like, obviously, defence, AI, etc. And so we as a country, policy-wise and tactically, should be trying to align our skills agenda and what we invest in with those big verticals. And construction, unfortunately, wasn't seen as a vertical, despite the fact that we're one of the big enablers of the country.
Absolutely.
But we are seen as a horizontal enabler for all of those things.
Right. Okay.
And so we've got that as the North Star as a country. Hanging off of that, we've got the defence strategy and others, but particularly for us in construction, we've got the infrastructure and construction strategy, and we have NISTA, the National Infrastructure and Service Transformation Authority, which was the merger of the IPA, the Treasury's big project, mega project, audit and capability function, and National Infrastructure Commission, our policy function. They brought those 2 things together. Those 2 quangos together about a year ago, I think. NISTA have published a 10-year funded pipeline. They've just updated. It's going to be updated every 6 months. So anyone in our industry can go and download a spreadsheet of all of that data.
Right.
It's not perfect. Some of the departments have done a much better job than others. So infrastructure is much better served.
Right.
Whereas DFE and MOD just have one line. DFE 15 billion over X number of years.
Yeah.
So that's a bit annoying. They need to unwrap the bars.
Yeah.
But that should, over the coming months and years, be our North Star of the 750 billion that the government's going to spend in construction and infrastructure.
Right.
So that kind of acts as the North Star. The WhatsApp bants between Mike and I were about the fact that a third of it is already in construction. So that's not a construction pipeline. That's a OPEX FM maintenance pipeline.
Right. Okay.
So maybe it's 450 billion, not 750 billion, but still bit to go at.
Yeah.
46 billion in power line distribution, for instance.
Wow.
Not really in the press at all.
Yeah.
Great opportunity.
Yeah.
North Star. Bottom up, coming the other way, the new Procurement Act came into force in February last year.
Right.
Across public sector. That's our UK set of rules by which public authorities should procure stuff. So until, believe it or not, Brexit happened in 2016. We were still using the EU's rules until February last year.
Right. Okay.
The Procurement Act was born in Boris and Cummings era, so it wasn't great on detail and stuff. But in fairness to Cummings and others, they've put into it some fairly sensible stuff.
Right.
Not all of it's quite been executed on perfectly yet, but it's coming. But one of the things that's really very useful for your audience is that every public sector authority that procures stuff is now compelled to publish notices of what they're going to procure on an 18-month horizon.
Right. Okay.
They have to tell you what's coming.
Yeah.
Quality of the data is a bit pants, and all of that. It will get better and better over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
The act itself, there's lots of unintended consequences and things that aren't perfect. There's already been a consultation on a 2.0,
Right.
particularly to enable a better environment for SMEs.
Okay.
So I recognise we've both got clients that are big dogs,
Yep.
1,000+ people
Yep.
businesses, but we've also got a lot of clients that are smaller,
Yep.
startups, SMEs, etc. So there should be obviously with a Labour government, hopefully for at least another couple of years, there's going to be a greater emphasis on enabling SMEs. And actually just, I don't know when this will go out, but yesterday there was a report published on the government are going to instill more opportunity for SMEs, less mass outsourcing, and things like that. So we'll see that's going to be a consultation. So we'll see what comes of that. So there is a data pool building. It's not perfect, but it's building where you can do some rudimentary market research. So if you haven't already, most of your clients probably have got a public sector portal of some sort, a contracts advance, a tussle or something.
Yep.
Just go to that data provider and say, can we have all the notices on what's coming? And let's have alerts for those moving forwards. But then sift them by that perfect client sweet spot and project sweet spot to create a dream list of clients and opportunities that are very precisely curated, that fit your business, and then just go and execute, go and talk to those people, do some round table breakfast, some thought leadership stuff, invite them to some site visits, just try and, I know you're a fan of Daniel Priestley, right? I would also advocate reading his book, Key Person of Influence, because this is what you're executing on, you're very good at on the old LinkedIn. We were talking off camera, weren't we, about how people walk up to us and start talking to us like they know us. It's because we're sort of LinkedIn famous, which is a bit weird but nice. But basically, for a human to trust and buy something from another human, Daniel's view is they needed to have racked up, 7 hours of content?
I believe so,
through 11 touch points, through 4 conduits: podcast, speaking at a conference, one-to-one contact time, a coffee, a Teams call, etc., and something else. So that's why I've also got a podcast, The Red Review, with Jeremy Brim. Also do lots of LinkedIn videos, speak at conferences, do public speaking stuff. You're very welcome to have me at your company conference talking about your funnel and how to grow your business. It's because I'm trying to rack up that contact time in person or virtually with these people. So where you want to be is where I'm at these days, where at least once a week, probably 2 or 3 times a week, I get onto a discovery call or a Teams call with someone, and they will say something along the lines of, "It's really weird being on a Teams call with you, Jeremy, because I listen to your podcast, it feels like I know you, or I see your LinkedIn videos and it feels like we're sort of part of your furniture." That's where we want not your BD people. That's where we want your key delivery people
100%.
in their markets and their verticals, seen as experts in that vertical subsector, seen as thought leaders that are credible, capable, personal brands, that are seen as the go-to people. And we don't see enough. I was thinking about you this morning and what you put out on LinkedIn, and we don't see that enough in our clients, do we?
Absolutely not. I can think of a handful of smaller consultancies that do it, but they're very small, I think. Then you got maybe the larger ones who put out a lot of information. Could you say some of it's a bit curated and a bit, a bit corporate? I think you probably can. So
It's a bit faceless, isn't it?
there's a danger of it being, I think. Whereas I think, there's absolutely room in the market for somebody just to be on there regularly, doing similar, I guess, to what me and you do, and just being there regularly and showing up. Whereas I actually see it's a lot of smaller businesses who are often a lot of one-man bands who are doing it. And I think there's a few, Ante, I can't remember his surname now. There's a guy who pops all the time. He's obviously ex-commercial manager, director, puts a lot of advice, and he's obviously very much, coming back to what we talked about earlier, Jeremy, targeting his ICP, which he generally targets subcontractors who don't have a clue what they're doing, often enter into contracts and then find themselves in trouble later on because they've not read the contract properly. And suddenly a really smart commercial manager in a tier one's just running them ragged. And he puts a lot of advice out there, and it's good advice. There's a few others I can think of like that, and there's another one who's named Richard. He's just escaping me again. He'll kill me. We have quite a lot of bands with each other. But there's a few that are doing it, but I don't see any of the kind of good established SMEs doing it, or the big corporates doing it.
No, although saying that, of course, we're not their audience, perhaps.
No.
So perhaps we don't see it. I mean, I had a client this week that I've coached to do some really good thought leadership stuff, but they've got some IP that they really wouldn't want their competitors really grasping. And so I've said, don't do the big LinkedIn stuff. Do thought leadership breakfasts, site visits with your clients, etc., and invite. Basically, they need to get a prospect sitting between a happy client and then the person that will be the number one CV in their bid in a year's time.
Yeah.
If you replicate that 3 times around a breakfast table and do that 3 times a year, you'll probably smash your numbers to bits. So some of it might be invisible, but it is odd to me. I mean, I grew up in the golden age of E.C. Harris, where frankly, they had about 30 people that could be chief execs of really big businesses, the senior partners.
It's a great business, wasn't it? It was in its heyday. It was an exceptionally
wonderful.
strong business.
Wonderful. So growing up with the likes of Mark Farmer, obviously went on to establish Cast with Keith Brooks and Joe Thornton, etc., Neil. They obviously carried on that sort of thought leadership led piece, and some of that we could see externally, but some of that they would have been injecting into the right audiences more privately, email campaigns and talking at specific events or creating sort of specific environments to do that. So perhaps we don't see as much of it, but I don't see it. Annoyingly, you can see some pretty big businesses getting their chief exec out front, and you need a little bit of that, particularly if it's a PLC. You want investor relations type stuff. There's also, we mustn't forget, particularly for your game, the sort of talent retention piece. So we want a bit of, we're working on this project and the site visit-y, social value type stuff. That's all cool, background noise, as I would call it. But what we don't see enough of, if you do your chief exec out front, the business is doing really good. Clients know they're never going to work. They're never going to meet them, or they'll only meet them if something goes really wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe a big event or something. These days we've found, particularly post-pandemic, clients are much more tuned to the fact that they are buying teams of people. They care a lot less about the brand, and they really care about the competence and performance, and spending time with a group of people. So they're buying a collection of 3 to 5 CVs or something.
Sure.
And they are much more conscious now that their scorecard, their performance review at the end of the year is much more balanced on the performance of that team of people they're buying.
Yep.
So the team of people they're buying in to help them with that project, their performance is more important to that client person than what car they drive or maybe even where they live. Because if that project doesn't go very well, particularly some of your clients that do big projects in the hundreds of millions, they might get fired.
Yeah.
In the private sector. In the public sector, they might get promoted. But in the private sector, they might get fired. In the public sector, they might not get that promotion or get to manage a bigger group of people or do another project of that type again. They might get the sort of military equivalent of getting sent to Alaska or something. And so they are extremely keyed into the capability, competence, and the relationships, the human factor with groups of people that we're putting forward. And so in our marketing, in our funnel, how we try to engage clients way before a tender, co-solution with them and shape their procurements with them, ideally towards a negotiation or direct award of some sort. It's getting our humans to help them figure out how to build their job, create value for them that they value. That's absolutely priceless. But as part of that, we could do with positioning those people in your marketing in the funnel, and no one really seems to be doing a good job of that anymore.
Few and far between, certainly, I would say, yeah. And I think, absolutely as you say, I think if we look at very large businesses, it is more complicated. Entirely get that. They've got to be probably got to really think about what they're putting out there. There's probably got to be some control, and that's makes perfect sense. I get it. within smaller consultancies, though, they've got the freedom to get out there and do it, and like you say, be able to not only have the MD, the CEO of the business, very out there. You touched on Mark Farmer, thinking, certainly cast, I probably don't see his content as much as I used to do, but certainly he used to be very visible, a lot of events. I used to put a lot of stuff out there. There's an opportunity for certainly an SME of 10 to 30 people to really work on, getting their people out there much more regularly, both the CEO, MD, but also the rest of the staff, and get a good feel for it. And they'll probably sell a lot more because people will then get to like them, trust them. And we can, some of the companies me and you both talked about before we came on air, really nice businesses, really good businesses, led by really good people who are doing a really good job. It's like, get out there and make yourself more visible, and you'll get more business.
When it's in combination with, I did some work late last year on the concept of high agency,
right? Yeah,
in humans.
Yeah.
And when people think, if people have heard of the term high agency, they think secondhand car salesman or something. People who are on the front foot at high energy, which is not the same thing. There's actually two sides to high agency. So yes, there's energy, getting out there, talking to people, finding the time and wherewithal to continually go and contact people and push your pipeline through. That's half of it. But the other half is the emotional intelligence and empathy. It's talking to your clients and asking for feedback, and talking to your peers and asking for feedback, and learning, actively looking to learn. And it was one of the things that Graham Keane, my work dad, was absolutely exceptional at. Was not just having great ideas and valuable ideas and taking those to clients and having energy, but also getting feedback and making sure that we're learning our lessons and continually propelling forward. So it's not necessarily about, in your small consultancy business, just hiring people that are like that, because businesses need a mix of capability and different personality types to drive forward. You will need some introverts that absolutely don't want to do that, but want to sit in the corner and churn out great, valuable work. But it's about, how do you get the balance right of high agency people versus the other mix of people, detail orientated people, more social minded people. Along with, how do you engender processes and approach as a business, how you drive your pipeline forward that actively gets the business to act more high agency as a team. So it's things like, I have in my calendar twice a week a half-hour slot where it says, Rebecca tells you to send 5 messages. So Rebecca Mullen is a wonderful public speaking coach that I work with. She's based in the States, helps people prepare for TED Talks, because that's something I want to do a runway towards in a year or two, as AI kind of comes for the rest of my business. I want to get into doing more public speaking stuff. And she's also a wonderful business coach, actually. And I was struggling to find the time or drive to just get in touch with people and move my pipeline forward. And so she's taught me to just stick absolutely to that little half-hour slot. If I can't do it exact that time that week, I'll move it within the week. But I pebble people.
Right.
So I've got my dream list. I did my market research in late 2024 into 25 of my dream list of clients I wanted to work with. So I did some market research on them. I scored them, something your clients could do. So do the market research bit. I then scored that list it was actually 200 firms by closeness of relationship. So just 1 to 3, how well I knew them, basically. Scale of value that I could add to them, and scale of opportunity for me with them. And then friction in procurement. How easy would it be for me to win work with them? Totaled those up and sorted it highest to lowest, and the top 20 are my dream list of clients that I've been focusing on. I did that through 2025. Business grew 22%, and I worked 10% less.
Wow. Brilliant.
Just through focus.
And
so in that little half-hour slot twice a week, I pebble people on that list. Saw this and thought of you. Have you thought about this? CWAS 3 is coming out. Make sure your bid team have thought of this thing. Go and look at the construction professional services one, what their social value question is, because yours will probably be similar. And just try and be helpful. Or I'll ask them a question. What are you guys finding in this space? How do you do that? because I'm interested in how that works
Mm.
for me.
Mm.
And just could I get a bit of coaching, blow a little bit of smoke? You're really fantastic at this. How did you do that? And you just start a little bit of dialogue, just LinkedIn messages or WhatsApps, or maybe you get on a Teams call, and it builds and builds and builds over time, as well as the obviously more hardwired pipeline stuff. I sent you a proposal for this. Do you need anything more from me, etc. And it just builds momentum in the business. But you're only focusing on that audience in your dream list. All of my messaging, everything that goes out in my marketing, whether it's LinkedIn stuff, blog posts, events that I speak at, talks that I give, whatever it is, all have that dream list of clients in mind that fit my sort of perfect client avatar.
Yeah, and it's fair to say we can probably both take a very educated guess that very few consultancy leaders are doing that.
Agreed.
Yes.
Yeah. And so they end up either working with clients that they've always worked with, but they haven't really done the maths, that they're not actually making that much money, and the account management's quite heavy, or that client's pipeline's going to tail, and you've not got ahead of it with replenishment of your client portfolio, or more likely they're just hobby bidding, and they're getting. I find two different ends of this in smaller consultancies, particularly. Either the directors are the only people doing bidding, and so they're doing that in their evenings and weekends and burning themselves out.
Yeah.
Or worse, to some extent, they're just getting junior people to do it, turn the handle, and they're less aware of that burn rate. Their win rate's quite low, and so their win rate's low either way, but those junior people end up leaving because they're working on loads of bids and losing loads. Both of those are bad things.
Yeah.
So if we can up the focus on clients, more direct award negotiated work with clients that have got programs of work, capture of the key frameworks that will enable that. Oh, that was something we were talking about, was it? The spectre of frameworks. Because the game's changed in the framework world. So most businesses, more the contractors, but the consultancies are as bad for it, I guess. The game 10 years ago or more was get on some frameworks, mini bid everything that comes through it, and you'll be successful. And you could run a mediocre business, turning an all right profit, and gradually grow it doing that. The game's changed now. You have to bear in mind that the framework providers don't have very good BD themselves.
Right.
Really, it's a real mixed bag. One or two of them are exceptional, most of them less so, and they're in great competition between the frameworks in public sector. So you tend to find they will publish a pipeline, but that pipeline's made up of stuff that one of the people on the framework has taken to them. So they obviously know the client better than you and are probably going to win that deal. So it doesn't matter whether it's come through a framework or not. If you're writing bids to strangers, you're not going to win. And if you do, you're going to win by accident because you've underpriced it and you won't make any money.
Right.
So the game now is to take clients and projects to a framework and get direct awarded that work straight back.
Right. Okay.
Worst case, you take the client and projects to the framework and you have to go through a mini bid, but you're always going to win it because you know them best and shape the specification.
Right.
And that is something that most consultancy businesses, particularly the smaller ones, just aren't at the races at. They just bid everything that comes through these frameworks.
Interesting.
And they end up down the bottom of in the tail, right, with these loss-making one-hit wonder clients. So whether it comes through a framework or not, frameworks are just a lens by which to be procured.
Right.
They are not a gravy train of work that you can just tap into.
Right with you.
It doesn't work like that anymore.
So go out and develop the relationships with those clients, these sub-clients, or whatever you call it, all those clients within that framework, and then you ask them to go to work with, or bid for you and go to work with you.
Take them to the frameworks that suit them and you best. So it's a short-term game being a mercenary. Right. So you shouldn't take them to frameworks and stuff that just suits you and makes you more money. I mean, I guess the top tip for your audience is be the most valuable. If you can figure out, I have to explain this to people on my bid writing courses. It's a bit awkward because I'm supposed to be teaching them to write bids. But if you can save a client £1 million more than anyone else, it basically won't matter what you write in your bid as long as it's compliant.
Yeah,
you will win.
Of course, yeah.
If you are most valuable in value that they value, so as I always joke, there's no point putting a sustainability play to someone whose first name is Shake. They're probably not interested, right? But if they're interested in input money, your fee, or if they're interested in outturn CapEx money, how are you going to turn the volume up on that or save them money? Are they interested in how much of their time you can save them, or how much time a program you can save them on their construction project, which will save them? So there's time, there's smiley faces. Can you save them carbon, create more jobs through social value through you or the contractor or supply chain? Anything that they care about, how you're going to turn the volume up on it. But fundamentally, if you save them, if you create softer things like you help reduce their staff turnover by creating a better office environment, that saves them recruitment fees and mobilizing people. So that's money.
Yeah.
If you save them time, that's probably prelims, one way or another, that's going to come back to money. So your hypothesis should always come back to pounds or dollars. But the top tip is figure out how to be the most valuable to your clients that are your perfect client avatar in things that they value, not stuff that you wish they cared about. And you can't help but be more successful.
The more and more of these episodes I do, a lot of business is really simple. Just be really effective at what you do, and get the key things right for clients, and you can't usually fail to win work off the back of that.
Yeah, well, we were talking about the spectre of AI, weren't we? It is really interesting at the moment. So you've got the big now, in the UK, most of the big, well-known heritage businesses have been bought by North American money. Even Arcadis, although Arcadis are Dutch, the biggest throughput of their workload is in the States in environmental and other things.
Sure.
And obviously you've had Mace been bought by, or 75% of Mace Consult bought by Goldman Sachs, etc. But it dates back all the way to DL being bought by AECOM, right? So it's been going on for like 20 years. And you can go through the why-withals of how, America has sort of bolstered its currency, etc., which has allowed them to be able to invest in these things or whatever. But the fact is, all of our big primes, at the DPRTE conference this week, Defence Procurement Conference, you look around and all of the big consultancies there are basically North American money.
Right.
They've all got the same business plan. So they've all got the same plan to double in 5 years.
Yeah.
Which is cool, apart from there ain't enough work for them to all do that.
Or people.
Or people, particularly, 500,000, something like 500,000 people are going to retire out of construction in the next 5 years, out of the 2.5 million in it, and they won't be replaced top to bottom. So not just consultancies, contractors, subbies. So we're already in the greatest fight for talent ever. So they're going to fight each other for bigger and bigger program delivery partner roles on National Hospital Program, HS2 or whatever comes next, the power line distribution thing or whatever. But I think what's interesting, there's a few of our friends that I know. You had Dave Watts from Childerstone on, super cool business, and others of that kind of ilk. Clients are actively coming to them because they want a personal human service. They want the superstars, not body shopping, not the kids. And so you can get that service from some of the big boys if you pick the right teams, etc. It's not, I'm not casting any shade, but there is an interesting rise of the boutique project management and QSing firm.
There is.
Going on at the moment. And there's also, bear in mind, because those North American businesses or funds have bought all of the big firms, the opportunity to get equity and become a partner in a business has evaporated. It's not nowhere near as significant as when we were kids. So, and when I was on that pathway with EC Harris. So, the opportunity to actually get some equity in something is really quite attractive. And in the fight for talent, those businesses should be able to succeed in getting hold of the right superstars more easily because they can offer equity or other sort of incentives that perhaps big PLCs can't.
Yeah.
So, but in this AI world, it's quite interesting that in my bidding, I don't really know what's going on in PM and QS world in this space, to be honest, because I'm not on the tools. But in the bidding space, for instance, I had a client say to me the other day, they've got the hump with using bidding consultants because they pay them a load of money and then they just get an output from Copilot back as the review of their bid.
Right.
And so they've used a middleweight or a less well-known or professional bidding consultancy, I guess. Whereas if you go to one of my competitors, like a strategic proposals, or you get someone good through a bid solutions or something, you're going to get a really personal service that's really thoughtful,
Mm.
really tuned into both your business and your proposition and the client, and what they're really getting at, and how procurement really works, far beyond, AI is fantastic, and it's going to dominate things really moving forwards, and it will improve and improve and improve. But there is something about relationships and a human service, which those more boutique consultancies are really turning the volume up on at
Yeah,
the moment.
agreed. And very director-led service to the clients. What are your thoughts, if you're an SME consultancy, on being very much a sector specialist as opposed to being more of a generalist? Would you say is that a sensible strategy? Is it not a sensible strategy? What are your thoughts on that? So let's say
Yeah.
you focus purely on the commercial developer market in London, as an example.
So there's obviously downside risk in that, if that market fumbles
Mhm,
for whatever, or
mhm,
tumbles for whatever reason. The problem is, so, and it's another bit of the education piece that's missing for B2B, B2G businesses: go to market strategy. Because I get people come to me all the time. Jezza, will you help us with this capture campaign? Because I'm sort of famous for that stuff. And it's always for a new piece of business with a new client, and quite possibly in a new space, a new big shiny
mm,
thing. Someone
mm,
senior's got very excited about
mm,
a new big shiny thing. And my heart always sinks a bit, because I know that they've seen something on my LinkedIn or whatever, and they've come to me, but I can tell by the tone of their voice they don't really know what it's about.
right.
And so what's really happened is that a bid's about to come out for something big and exciting, and they want my help because they're not actually positioned for it at all. They don't know the client.
Mm,
They probably haven't truly got the capability for it.
mm,
They're trying to sort of elbow their way into a new space, and they haven't done a proper go-to-market strategy. I was talking to someone actually at the defence conference this week about this, that you see lots of ex-generals, like tank commanders, bolstering their way around the conference, right? And there's loads of the builders go and get themselves an ex-military big dog, and that is their thought in how you enter a market. And these people ping pong around their business for a couple of years, and then
mm.
quietly leave. Generally, some of them don't. Some of them do a great job, but
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
often you just go and get someone who knows people,
Mm,
and you think that will do.
mm,
When actually go to market's much more nuanced and complex than that. So you should, if you want to enter new markets or diversify, you need to do some proper market research on what's the pipeline, who are the competition,
mm,
and what's the approach to entering that market. Because
mm,
there's different ways to do it. So
mm,
yes, you could go and do a strategic hire and then build a team and grow into that
mhm,
space, but you could go and buy another business that's already established in
mhm,
that space. There's different ways of entering a market most effectively that need to be analysed. And then I would say, figure out what are the top three pursuits that you could go after in that space that are more than a year away from tender, and conduct some capture on those first three. Over engineer your approach to winning those deals, and you might win one of the three,
mm,
probably won't win all three.
mm,
And the great thing with capture is it's not a bid. The bid's not out for another year, a year and a half. You can do stuff. So if you start to engage those clients and they say to you, you need this technology platform, this accreditation, you need someone who knows something about this stuff, you can go and get those things or
right,
make
yeah,
commitments around
yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
things. So by the time the bid's out, you've already co-solutioned it. You've figured out how
Mm,
to win the deals, right? So it's just, if you want to diversify and work in more markets, as a subset of business planning, you need an appendix on go-to-market strategy for whatever sector. So analyze those different sectors. You won't be able to boil the ocean, so prioritize one or two. Do a proper go-to-market strategy. So research it, the competition, the key people, the clients, the pipeline, and prioritize what you're going to target. Do capture on the top three pursuits. Win one, build your credibility, build off the back of that, turn them into an account and then a key account, and then build and build. But that's going to be a 3 to 5 year vibe. That's not you can't just go big bang unless you buy or merge with another business.
mm,
You can't just go big bang. So
yeah.
there's strategy and then tactics to implement. You can't just go hobby bidding a load of stuff. I see it all the time with smaller consultancies. Oh, Jezza, we've been bidding loads of work in health, and we're not winning anything. Oh, well, tell me about your referenceability, your case studies. Oh, well, we did one. Did you? Well, no, actually, we employed someone that did one at a previous employer, so we can't use that case study. We've just got a CV. See, that's hard. So you've got to unpack a bit of a route to get there, right? Build some momentum. It's not going to happen overnight. You need to do it properly.
Yeah, good. All right, as I thought this was probably my longest podcast today, and I guess it will be, which is not surprising. We both like talking.
We do.
Thanks for going on board. I reckon probably we could unpack a lot more detail. So we probably need to do a round two at some point, and really maybe get more into nitty gritty of like capture and what that means and how to approach it, etc. All that kind of good stuff. But I always ask two questions at the end. First one is, who would you say has been your best kind of boss or mentor throughout your career?
So this one's really challenging because there's what's the DNA of a great boss? Very, very few people, almost none, I would say, actually hit the sweet spot in the middle of the Venn diagram, because you want people who have great emotional intelligence and empathy, are thoughtful human line managers, but you need people who are also entrepreneurial, and people who are great at developing people, and that's a very rare combination, which sadly, as direct line managers, I'm not sure I've ever actually had.
Right.
I've had lots of great mentors and leaders in businesses who haven't been my direct line managers,
Right.
but even them have not been super strong in all of the things at once,
Right.
just by happenstance. But I know lots of people in other businesses that I'd love to have worked for, like Paul Ruddock, who's chairman of Reds 10. Who's a bit of a mate of mine. We had a great catch up at that defence conference this week. If I needed a real job and couldn't do what I do now, Paul would be my first call.
Right, brilliant.
Because he's extremely entrepreneurial, but super focused on creating that maximum value for clients. But he's very thoughtful about his people, his organisation, the development of it. So he's probably up there in sort of the closest to it. But there's a few people like that I've been very lucky to get to work with as clients, or get to work with adjacent, but they've never actually been my hard and fast line manager, I have to say, which is a real shame. I wish they could have been.
Do you think, so you made a point, back to EC Harris days, where you said, there could have been 30 of those people who could have been their own CEOs. I generally get my general view is there are less. I think we've got a real succession planning issue in the industry, in the consultancy world, probably the contracting world as well. I don't think there is. Maybe some of those individuals who were successful 20 years ago may not be successful, or 10 years ago may not be successful now, in terms of we're in a different world. But I still think there's a lack of really good leaders in the industry. I think it's getting worse. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's true. So it's really challenging, isn't it? Because pretty much all of the leaders of these businesses have been wonderful delivery people who have been promoted and promoted up. They can go and do MBAs and things at academic institutions, and all of that's wonderful. And there's a bunch of strategy stuff in that, like on those sorts of programs, you'll get taught kind of frameworks for things, but in terms of the real tactics to deliver, and it's not just growth related stuff. I do non-exec stuff for a bunch of different sorts of SMEs, a recruitment business, a specialist contractor, architecture firm, etc. And like you say, one of the biggest challenges is the fight for talent and retaining people and developing leaders. So that's a kind of vertical in itself, but skills and development and tech and all of those sorts of things are real challenges. And of course, the world's changed a lot in terms of, particularly post-pandemic, in terms of people's sensibilities. Young people earlier in their careers these days, there's a lot less savages. There's people who will really grind it out, work super hard, frankly, make stuff happen. Is my read, although I'm not working in bigger businesses hands-on so much anymore. So your people proposition has to be really strong but tuned correctly. Your vision and values. So I've done a bunch of work with a 250 people organization on their vision and values recently. And that's really challenging because you're doing that for two reasons. You're doing that externally for the market, but you're doing that internally for your people. You need to be, frankly, if you're working with one hit wonder terrible clients down in the bottom of the funnel because you've been hobby bidding, your people will leave and get paid more money somewhere else because of the fight for talent. So there's a combination of vision and values. We're going over there. There's a bit of, so that's carrot. There's a bit of stick in that you need an operating model as a business where everybody's measured truly on their performance and their contribution to the growth of the business and themselves. And so leaders who understand operating model, performance environment, not just HR people driving that, but leaders genuinely embedding that. So carrot plus stick. And then ultimately, if you can get to a place where the business is working with great clients on the most exciting work, where people see development, so focusing on that sweet spot of those best clients to work with and doing more negotiated work, the business will be more of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But as we said earlier, we're heavily underserved in education, development in how to grow a B2B, B2G business. Almost no one understands that funnel that I help people with. And it's something I'm trying to engage government on. It needs to be fixed, because if we want to be successful in our industry and as a country, post-Brexit and what's going on in the world and all that, we haven't got time to hobby bid loads of stuff and end up working with stuff that's not optimal. We need to optimize these businesses. So we all have a better time, make a bit more money.
100%. And the last question, if somebody was setting up a business today, would there be a book that you would gift them, say, read this?
It's always interesting. So everybody always goes to the Simon Sinek why stuff, don't they? And that doesn't actually really work for B2B, B2G. It's quite funny watching people struggle to bend that into B2B, B2G world for me, because I love Simon and his stuff. It's incredible, but it's quite B2C. So I would reference the Daniel Priestley stuff.
Yeah, agreed.
But actually, it's not a book so much, although I think he's written some books. But I would follow Rory Sutherland,
right,
who's deputy chairman of one of the big ad agencies. Although he works with lots of clients who are B2C, some of the big brands, you'd find on a supermarket shelf. There's loads of stuff that I was listening to some of his stuff on the way down this morning. There's loads of stuff that is perfectly applicable to us, actually, in how you drive a business forward, and particularly how you have a value generation focused business, not a cost reduction focused business. Because I think that's where particularly smaller consultancies will be more successful. If you focus on creating more value for clients than anyone else, you'll win.
Yeah, 100%.
So he uses the example of the hotel doorman. So if you get a management consultancy firm in to review your hotel chain and you've still got hotel doorman, they'll probably say cost reduction, get rid of the doorman and have an automatic door. But what they've not thought through is the value creation, in that doorman doesn't just open a door. He is your security. He recognizes repeat customers. He helps people, hails cabs, all of that kind of stuff. And so you'll find within 6 months to a year that your hotel chain does less well, even though you've saved a bit of money, because the human experience is missing. And so I think for consultancies in the AI generation, that's going to be really important, is that human factor and how you generate more value for anyone else. So Rory Sutherland's got some really good talks on that on YouTube that are worth having a bit of a search.
Yeah, I think I'd just add to that. I think companies have got to be really intelligent about how they use AI. They should use AI to remove a lot of the day-to-day admin for people, so that whatever you do, whatever profession you're in, you get to spend more time with your customers, with your clients. Beg your pardon, Jeremy. Be careful. The word customer. More time with your clients, more time with your people. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the key thing that still differentiates us from AI is that we're humans, and humans like other humans. So the more time you can spend close to your clients, close to your people, close to probably other partners who may be, symbiotic with what you do, the more you can spend building relationships. That's what you need to spend time doing.
Absolutely. Because if you spend time with them, understand what keeps them up at night and what they value, you can turn the volume up on that value then, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The business will spiral up and up.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Jeremy, thank you. Jezza, thank you for your time today. Yeah, we're coming up to an hour 15. This will be the longest one yet, which I
Sorry.
fully anticipated it would have been. I'm not surprised. But no, I think people will get a lot of value out of this one. So, look, keep doing what you're doing. I love that, how kind of pragmatic you are about things and how you just cut through a lot of the bullshit and get people to just try and focus on the key bits that they need to do. I think too many businesses just overcomplicate themselves and spend a lot of time on kind of ego pursuits that are not really the big thing. They end up building empires which are bloody inefficient and don't make enough profit.
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid, as my dad says.
I love that saying. Absolutely, kiss. Love it. Thank you very much, Jeremy. We'll definitely have you on again because there's so much value you can keep giving, I think, to the market that I predominantly serve, the consultancy market. I think a lot could do with your assistance.
Of course, come and see us at UK Reef.
Yes. More to do with that. Let's. I'm yet to unveil that, Jeremy. But Jeremy, will be a guest speaker at an event I'm putting on, which I'm really excited about. So you'll get to see us then.
Very good. Look forward to that. Thank you.
Cheers.